Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Financial Behavior, the podcast from Friar Financial. I know you guys are tired of listening to me, so I brought in some help today. So this is my go-to estate planning attorney. Miss Mariah Street is here.
Hello. Thank you
Yeah.
for having
So
me.
yeah, thank you for joining me on this Friday.
Yes, it's good. Friday, as we call it. Okay.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Listen.
Yeah. So Mariah, what I do is try and bring information to the clients and to the community for questions I get a lot.
Yeah.
And you know how much I bug you and shoot you emails and send people to you. So a lot of people think, sometimes like we advertise estate planning, but they kind of don't understand it's from the financial side and funding it and all that stuff.
Right.
And they think I can do the wills, and I'm like, no, 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 no. Marcus cannot practice law, so
Right.
we pivot to Mariah. so, so we're gonna begin today. If you can kind of just talk to us a little bit about really estate planning, why we need it, then
Mhm.
maybe the basic, bare bone basic documents that are needed to kind of start to create that estate plan.
Yes, that's such a good question. Of course, one I get a lot. So the main reason to obviously get your estate planning done is to make sure that you are prepared in when I'll say when because a lot of times we say if, and we're not getting out of this thing alive, out of life alive. At some point that's gonna happen. We just don't know when. And that is even more reason to make sure you have a plan in place for what happens to all the stuff that you own and all of the people that you care about. So, really just point blank period. That's what that is. Also, though, a lot of people think that estate planning is just planning for death, but it's also planning in the event of emergency situations as well
Hmm.
as incapacity. So that means that if you are ever in a situation where you cannot make decisions for yourself, but you are still alive. Okay. So think, you got into a car accident, you are, in a coma or a vegetative state or something like that, or you have dementia or Alzheimer's and you cannot make decisions for yourself. So
Hmm.
you have to have a plan for, again, what happens to the people in your life that are important to you, especially people who depend on you, and for anything financial, whatever, any of it. And then what happens to the things that you have as well, because if you're still alive, you're going to still have bills, you're going to still have everything is going to keep going. So that's really the main reason. Yet a lot of people, and me especially, I'm very much on the side of, if that is not a motivator for you, making sure that you control the narrative of what does happen to your things and the people that you love. Because believe it or not, everybody actually already has an estate plan. So whether you did it yourself or like you participated in that process or you didn't, that's the case. If you do not have a plan, state law is going to determine what happens.
Yeah,
And
they
so
have a plan for you, right?
they're gonna plan it for you. So,
Right.
and I guarantee you, out of the many years I've been doing this, it is never what you would have wanted to happen in
Hmm.
those situations. And so
Hmm.
it's better that while you are in your right mind, you can still make decisions for yourself, that you are the writer of that story, that you can determine who's going to take care of me if I'm still alive, or the people that depend on me, or whatever the case may be. Here's what happens to my stuff. Here's how you pay my bills, blah, 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 all of that stuff. And when you do pass away, same thing. What happens to the people in your life? What happens to, your stuff and all the stuff that you've worked so hard to accumulate. And so, and of course, my firm's name is Legacy Street Law, so I'm all about legacy as well. A lot of people think about, what what type of impact do I want to leave on my family or my community, or whatever the case may be. Whatever you care deeply the most about, you can really make an impact
Hmm.
with your estate planning in that
Hmm.
regard. And
Hmm.
so, with that, the foundational documents that you definitely for sure everybody needs is your a will. Everybody does need a will, and that is a document where you list what anything that is in your name, how it gets distributed at your death, right? You in this document, you can also, if you have minor children, this is where you likely will be naming guardians for your minor kids. So
Okay.
who is taking care of your kids? Because that's important. A lot of people think as well that if you're married, that your spouse is the automatic person that's going to be taking care of your kids. If that's not the case,
Mhm.
the law says any interested person can petition the court to become guardians of your kids. So if you if you
Wow.
had family members can come out of the woodwork and really, mess some stuff up, especially
Wow.
because if you think about it, when you become a guardian, money is typically involved as well. So
Mhm.
to help
Mhm.
to take care of your kids, and so if you have some weird family dynamics, or whatever, that stuff can occur, and we see it happen all the time, and so
Mhm.
even more reason to make sure you yourself name those guardians and all of that stuff. Have an emergency plan in place. Anyway, so will. And then your power of attorney. So a lot of states call it different things. It could be financial power of attorney, property power of attorney, durable power of attorney, whatever semantics. This is this
Mhm.
doesn't matter. It's power of attorney is a document where you name a person, your power of attorney, an agent to act on your behalf to make financial and legal decisions on your behalf when you cannot. So again, that was kind of what I was talking about earlier. If you're in a situation where you can't make decisions for yourself, this person will step into your shoes and make those legal and financial decisions for you. So if you ever need to, like, if you have to sign contracts or,
Mhm.
paying your bills, like we talked about before, anything that is legal or financial in nature, your power of attorney will step up and do it on your behalf. Because, like I said, that stuff keeps rolling. This is a document that is utilized when you are still alive. Um, so yeah, and once you die, this is a side note, but once you die, that the power of attorney terminates. A lot of people think
Mhm.
that because you have a power of attorney, like when somebody dies, it means you can like handle like
Mhm.
estate stuff. You can't. That's when you're looking at the will and who was executor and who was doing that. So I've had some like
Right.
confusion with some clients that think that. But anyway, so next thing is your medical power of attorney. Could be medical, yeah, medical, healthcare, whatever, power of attorney. Same thing as your financial or durable power of attorney, where you will name an agent to um, step into your shoes and make decisions for you when you're still alive, but you can't make decisions for yourself, and they'll make those medical decisions for you. So if you're in the hospital, they're talking to your doctors, they're authorizing treatments or not authorizing them or whatever the case may be. They're doing all of that. They're making those medical decisions for you. And then with that, you'd want to have your advanced directives or living will, not to be confused with the last will and testament. Your last will and testament is your will, like what people think of a will. Living will is another name for advanced directives, advanced healthcare directives. So
Gotcha.
there. And
Okay.
this is a document where you list your end of life care wishes. So, if you are in some type of end of life care situation, when do you want to be taken off life support? Do you want to make sure that there was a story that I heard where somebody said in their advanced directives they wanted their lips to be moisturized. They don't want to be looking ashy, if they're in the hospital. And so, just make sure I'm good, like, all of that. So it can be, it runs the gambit, but but yeah, you list all of your end of life care wishes, in there. Do you want to receive artificial hydration, nutrition, that type of stuff? And then your HIPAA releases. So this will kind of help out your healthcare power of attorney to make informed medical decisions on your behalf, because as we all know, HIPAA laws, you can't access somebody's
Mhm.
medical records without written permission, and so that
Right.
helps your healthcare power of attorney to be able to access the records and be able to make informed decisions about your healthcare. So those are fundamental. Everybody at a minimum
Mhm.
needs those. I will say the kind of thing that a lot of people are looking for towards now is a revocable living trust, because it does help to streamline, the process of when you do pass away.
Mhm.
Who gets your stuff and how. Basically, it's different
Mhm.
than a will. Well, it does the same thing, but it's different in a will in that One main thing, you don't your family does not have to go through what's called the probate process. So when you die, your family or whoever next to kin has to wrap up your life, basically your legal and financial
Mhm.
life, and so and pass the assets from the whoever the person that died to the heirs or the beneficiaries at law,
Mhm.
if you didn't have a will. So there's that. And the thing about probate is it could be lengthy, it could be a long time before those assets are distributed. Some states are worse than others. In North Carolina, you're looking at probably 2 to 3 months if there's no issues. And a lot of people think that just because the person didn't have a lot of stuff, that there's no issues. I promise you, I literally have worked with clients who had very simple, if you want to call it that, simple situations. And I'm still working with them over a year later. So,
Mhm.
um, you know, please do not think that just because you're not a millionaire that your stuff is going to be wrapped up soon. Family can start, death brings out a lot of emotions. Family members start coming out the woodworks. I've been in situations where family be suing each other. It's crazy. So please do not think that. But anyway,
Yeah.
but trust will avoid that process completely if it's well funded, if it is funded. Because I have had a situation where a client had a trust, but they didn't fund the trust, and so they still ended back in probate court. So anyway,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
there's that. But and then also you get access to those assets immediately. Once death happens, it's like an immediate transfer. All you have to do is administer it. Now, a lot of people do still go to an attorney to help with the administration process because there's a lot of legal stuff involved with that. There's taxes to be filed, there's all of that. Making sure that things are done, on the up and up and all of that on the administrative side. But it's more of a simple process. And
Mhm.
so yeah, that a lot of
Yeah.
people go that route.
Yeah. So you mentioned something because we had that come up with a client where they thought they had everything great from an estate planning standpoint. They had the
Mhm,
will. The mother had rental properties.
mhm,
Rental properties were willed to the daughters.
mhm,
However, apparently mom had some bills that they didn't know about.
mm,
And so they would not put those properties in their names until those bills were satisfied.
yeah, exactly.
But as you're saying and the reason I had her on is because this came up at our financial planning conference, and it was called the death of the trust-based plan was what they
Oh,
called the seminar.
oh my gosh,
I know, I was like, why'd y'all name it that? But anyway,
that's weird.
um, what they were saying was that the trust-based estate plan kind of has these advantages. So I think in that family situation, had like you said, they set up a trust,
Hmm.
funded the trust with those properties,
Hmm.
they wouldn't have had the issues they had.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously
Yeah.
depending on what, I don't know exactly what the situation was that happened, because if there's still, if there are debts still need to
Hmm.
be paid regardless,
Right.
because
Right.
that's always going to be a thing. But
Right.
yeah, it can definitely help when it comes to avoiding that court process,
Hmm.
getting access to those assets immediately,
Hmm.
and it can be a lot less money constraints as well. When you're going through the
Hmm.
probate process, there are court fees, administrative fees,
Oh
all of
yes.
that stuff. And
Yes.
so, it can be a whole thing.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
we had that. We
yeah.
had that situation too with the family had just about everything correct. Um,
Mhm.
was mom was going into a memory care facility.
Mhm.
So we were going to sell mom's house. We had set up the trust.
Yeah.
We're going to sell the house, put the house in the, or to put the proceeds. We're going to move the house to the trust and
Mhm.
sell it there because we didn't want her to have those assets trying to start the Medicaid clock.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Now they had done everything correct, but I think the one thing that escaped them was the daughter has had financial power of attorney for years,
Mm.
okay? Which was great,
Okay.
but they forgot to put transfer on death on the bank accounts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the bank account still had to go through probate.
Yep.
So now we had where all we needed to do was have transfer on death on those bank accounts,
Yeah.
but we didn't. Mom was loaded, right? Mom had some
Oh
money.
my
So
gosh.
now we had, like I said, the kids couldn't touch the money to do what they needed to do.
Right. Correct.
Um, Now we had to hire an attorney to actually do the probate. So that
Yeah.
was 5 grand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then plus, because of the amount of assets she had, the county charged about another $1,700.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Sounds all right.
those simple things, and that's why kind of, you know, and I've been asking this question lately after those two scenarios. So with all my financial planning clients, our annual meeting, my question is, how do you feel about your estate plan?
Mm.
I have had one person say they feel comfortable.
Oh my gosh. Why do you think that
One.
is?
So everybody understands this is important, and we understand we're kind of late to what we need to do.
Yeah.
But as you're saying, there's still time to get it done. There's still time to get things in place.
Sure.
So making sure you're coming to professionals to help you make sure your wishes are carried out is
Yeah.
kind of great.
Yeah.
So I know we kind of touched on high level that second layer, that trust, and there's some other, like I said, it goes further once you get into legacy planning and charitable remainder trust and all that fun stuff.
Mhm.
So you
Mhm.
just know your wishes can be carried out. You just have to come to people who can make sure they're carried out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You have children that are maybe some mature, some immature, so you want to protect those assets for
Absolutely.
them. And so there are ways to do that with proper structure. So
Absolutely. There's so many reasons to, I mean, some of the benefits to your point of establishing a trust. And obviously, a trust might not be for everybody. So I'm not saying I'm never going to be
right,
that attorney to be
right,
like, everybody needs a trust. Like it
right.
depends on your situation and what you feel comfortable with doing and your goals and all of that. So I want to put that out there.
Hmm.
Um, and that's how I do it with my clients. I never tell people like I'm suggesting based off of what you're telling me, what you
Correct.
want, and like this is the best way to accomplish that. Like that's what I'm going to tell you basically.
Right.
It's
Right.
your ultimately your decision to make. You can make it or not. You can do it or not. And also, I do want to say too, because I know cost of the hiring
Sure.
attorney is
Absolutely.
always an issue for people, and I get that. I get it. And I will say, if you are doing trust based planning, just know that it's going to cost more. It's going to cost more than doing a will because there's more involved. It's not just creating documents and stuff. It's also the funding. It's also the strategy. You're,
Hmm.
you should never just be doing a trust just to be doing a trust. There should be
Correct.
a reason why
Correct.
that you're doing
Correct. Correct.
and you need to be willing to invest in that type of planning. Like it's going to be more, and you should bank on spending thousands. If you're like
Hmm.
for any good attorney, you're going
Correct.
to be spending thousands. I'm just going to say that right now for anybody out there that's listening, so I can so you can save up or do whatever. But it's worth it because I always say it's an investment. When we think of investments, you think of getting an ROI. So if you are really thinking about legacy, trust can really be structured to leave money to the next generation, even generations after them. It gives you peace of mind. it
Hmm.
you know, it avoids headache for your family later to go through the
Absolutely.
court process. That stuff is like
Absolutely.
invaluable. So how much
Hmm.
is it worth to you to do that and get that stuff taken care of? And I will say, people might get mad at me when I be saying this, but attorneys are going to get paid either way. So,
Hmm.
we're going to get paid on the front end and the back end, but it's depending on for you, if you not doing any planning at all or very minimal planning or trying to DIY your planning potentially, and you have not a simple situation, then you can easily be your family
Hmm.
will be spending a crap ton of money later on when something happens to you, and they're
Right.
going to have headaches and stress. So
Hmm.
a lot of people do planning because they want to avoid that happening to their family. It's worth it to you to put the money up front, up front to make sure it's done right and done
Hmm.
correct the first time. And then when something does happen to you, your plan actually works when it needs to. Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
So I just kind of want to throw that out there. But
Yeah.
but back
Absolutely.
to back to
Yeah.
advantages of trust planning. You to your point, if you have kids who are minors, for sure, you're definitely looking at some type of trust planning because they're too young to inherit large sums of money. And then also, even if you have kids over the age of 18,
Mm-hmm.
who you might not want them to get large sums of money at once because they're going to squander it, or
Mm-hmm.
go to somebody say like a hot night in Vegas or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're just gonna spend it on whatever they want to spend it on. It's a trust are a way that you can kind of control the way that your children or whoever your beneficiaries are receive an inheritance that is more controlled and more like thought out.
Mm-hmm.
I have clients that run the gambit of how much control they want to have. Some really want to have the control,
That's
like
right. That's right.
because at the end of the day, it's your money. You worked
That's
hard for
me.
that money. So like they can earn their own money later on in life. So they're thinking, okay, this is my money that I'm giving you as a benefit to you. So I'm controlling hands down how you go about to spend this money. And other ones are a little bit more lenient. Yes, they're putting some conditions and stuff in place, but they're like, you know what, once it's theirs, it's theirs. They can do whatever
Mm-hmm.
they want with it. And none of that is right or wrong. It is how you
Yep.
feel and what you want, and documenting your wishes. That's the main thing here, is just getting those things documented. Another thing is, if you have a blended family, you probably
Mm-hmm. Oh
maybe
yeah.
definitely want to consider
Yeah. Oh yeah.
trust planning. Because if you got kids, your spouse has kids, you have kids together. I've worked with clients that had that situation where they had kids separately and then had kids together, and they were very adamant about
Mm-hmm.
making sure that
The way
their
things went. Right.
kids
Right.
were
Right.
taken
Right.
care
Right.
of.
Right.
Not that they didn't love their spouse's kids, and all of
Right.
that, but they wanted
Right.
to make sure that they weren't being disinherited in any way, because that could actually happen unintentionally, especially in blended families
Mm-hmm.
when one
Mm-hmm.
spouse passes away. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, there's that. Also, if you're charitable, Marcus mentioned as well, there are different types of trust to really help you establish that legacy piece of, giving back to the community or
Mm-hmm.
organizations that you care about, causes that you care about, and all of that. So, and if you care about your pets, there are also pet trusts to make sure that your
Mm-hmm.
pets are taken care of. There's just all different type. I mean, estate planning is a wonderful tool that everybody needs to utilize. Every plan is not going to look the same, and it shouldn't, because everybody's goals are different. Everybody has
Mm-hmm.
different personalities when it comes to this, like I was talking about before, and different family situations and different, all of that. So, it's just a matter
And
of what
even now your digital life.
Yes,
If
yes,
you want, yeah, if you want your Facebook pictures and your Instagram pictures,
yes.
yeah,
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 and I actually, with my clients, I have a digital planning package that every client gets. So,
nice,
on
nice,
instructions on how to handle the digital assets. So,
nice, awesome. Well, as always, this has been helpful. Again, these are things that come up. We've given you guys a couple real life examples of things that went awry
yeah,
unintentionally.
yeah,
But it's really important to have these professionals in place to help things go. And like Mariah says, it just makes it so much easier for your family. I mean,
it does.
we only have one mom and one dad. We do not get to practice this.
Yeah,
Us even sitting in these chairs took
yeah,
us a while to really understand how this stuff works.
yeah,
So, to
yeah,
the layperson who doesn't do this every day,
yeah.
I mean, and even people in your field who are, and it's funny, people think like, all attorneys know estate planning. Well, no, they
Oh, no,
don't.
no, no.
They don't practice it. Just
Oh,
like
yeah,
we'll hear all CPAs do taxes. I'm like,
yeah,
no,
no,
they actually don't.
no.
So
Just like
everybody has
doctors.
their little niche that they practice, and
Yeah.
that's what they really know because there's just so much stuff out there for us.
There's so much stuff. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just like in the medical field as well. All
yeah,
doctors do not do every. That's why you have specialists. When you have a
correct,
certain issue, you go to a doctor that specializes in that area and all of
correct.
that. I've had attorney clients because they
Yeah,
don't.
absolutely.
To your point, they do not do estate planning. They might do personal injury. Like they don't know nothing about estate planning, so they're coming to me to get their estate planning.
My cousin called me back, or my wife's cousin called me back, because we did just a little tidbit at the family reunion a couple years ago. We just talked about transferring death on bank accounts. He's
Yeah,
an attorney.
Yeah.
Call me back. What did you tell me to do at the bank? so,
Exactly.
so you know,
Exactly. To
uh-huh.
your
So
point. Yeah,
yeah,
just,
so
just start, what's the next best step that you can take to,
yep.
get it done. If you need to save up, to your point, to, make it a priority. We all spend money on things that we want and value. And so,
Hmm.
just do that, and do all that. Make it happen. Make it happen for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, good people, I have Mariah's information up on the screen here, so you can reach her at legacystreetlaw.com. You see she's got the schedule a consultation right there.
Yes,
So that
please.
is how you reach her to get on her calendar and
Yes,
kind of
please.
get things started to talk about your needs. So
Yes.
again, Mariah, thank you for your time today, coming in and joining me.
Yes.
I will be bugging you with more people and more questions. So
Same with you.
we'll keep it going. So
You already
that's
know.
that's right. That's right. Well, as always, everyone, thank you for joining in on the podcast Financial Behavior. Until next time, we will talk to you. Yeah, everybody have a good weekend.
Have a
Take
good
care.
weekend, y'all.